Hello, everybody. This is Victor here from Trend Following Trading for Beginners, and here's my weekly update on my sample trading portfolio coming up next. Hello, guys. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week. Relatively quiet this week until near the end of the week when the big four, so to speak, Google, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook basically came out with the Q2 result, and all except Google above expectation, but Google's have its first decline on advertisement, that kind of stuff, which is understandable with so many people out of work, and then company forward projection not very relatively clear. But Facebook, Amazon, and Apple all taking up quite a lot of money. Really doing pretty well. I mean, people during lockdown, social media, contacting each other more often through Facebook, buying things more on Amazon, and also Apple being, let's say before, a lot of people work from home like myself, they buy a computer, and Mac seems to be doing pretty well, so is the iPad and stuff. So this seems to have helped them, but the iPhone sales continue to be weak, not as good, but overall still above expectation. But one thing quite funny though, overall it's just like because everybody knows the down market, right? Because especially the trade war between U.S. and China, and so everybody projection, I mean the big banks on Apple has been lower, and then basically beat that expectation. And but it's quite funny in a way that compared to last year, I think it's making less money or something like that. But still above the expectation of a lot of analysts. So therefore, the price got up. But I just find that that's not the way to do business. Isn't it? Apple has been one of the darling of Nasdaq, and it's supposed to continue to make loads of money every year. And for some reason, it hasn't been punished, so it's just quite weird. But however, Google got punished. But the other thing that worthwhile to mention is because of this amazing result, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook all have a gap up, gap jump when they start open trading on Friday. Google basically went down, not as much. There's not much of a gap, but it still went down. So it's the other thing this is worthwhile to talk about is being trend following. Really depends on where you short term, medium term, long term. You get gaps. Sometimes gaps inevitable. You trade a short term, my short term system 280R. You get your trade basically got destroyed, and then when you try to close out because of the price have moved so much, you basically lose quite a bit of money. But overall, with a long term thing, this all play out at the end, but it does hurt when you in the money suddenly, and then suddenly go reverse, and then you lose the money. It's quite bad, and it just facts of life. But then if you have a medium to long term system, fortunately the gaps haven't actually touched those yet, and so they're still safe. But gaps is basically for trading anyway, is just matter of life. It's always got what you call trading and trading. Gaps can go either way. It could be in your favor or could be against you. And when it's in your favor and making a sudden move in the direction that you previously put the trade on for, and then suddenly got a big gap, it boosts your confidence and boost your bank account as well. But on the other hand, if the gap going the other way around, then of course it sort of hurts your ego and your bank account dwindle down as well. But the main thing here is, do you follow your main system? Have you followed your plan and execute your trade? So it's good lessons over here to basically to say that concentrate on your execution of your plan, concentrate on your process. Doesn't matter if you actually at the end of the day winning or not. Just like casinos. Sometimes they do pay out hugely. Those always lotteries, but overall they always make money because there is if it's a long-term game, then so long as you keep on trading and trading, you have a positive edge in the system, you will make money over long term. So don't give up. If this little gap up sort of hurt you, and you are shorting the share, and then suddenly it's gone up, like Apple, for example, then it's just I say it's the cost of doing business. That's just facts of life. It goes both ways, and it doesn't when it goes against you and doesn't go in your favor, then you just have to close out your trade and then go reverse. And that's another thing that people need to learn about as well. If the trade suddenly got reversed because of the large price gap, what you should do is follow your system, and then your system say, yeah, follow the reverse the trade as well, then you just reverse. So for example, for me, Apple for me then now is a signal to say, well, go buy rather than sell. So that's what's happening, and I'll be buying some more on Monday. But that's just the way it is to do trend for or any other type of trading. Do not marry it with your position, so to speak, and you will do better over long term. The other thing that ailed me this week is basically I think it's on Friday. I'm not sure if you follow Asian news, but being Hong Kong Chinese myself, I follow Hong Kong quite closely. For the past 10 days or so, they have what they call the third wave of coronavirus coming back to bite the butt, so to speak. And for the past 10 days or so, they have more than 100 cases per day for the last 10 days. And then suddenly the basically Hong Kong announced that Carrie Lam just announced that on Friday that they're going to postpone the local legislative election, which is I think in mid-September to next year. Then there's a lot of mixed noise, some mostly negative as far as I'm concerned, and it's just quite funny the way that we actually view those kind of things. On BBC News, actually, when I first heard about it, there's one of the negative, so it's Skies and Guardians and stuff, and said, some even go as far to say, for example, for like, for Sky News, they actually mention some other people, democracy, other people, freedom, sort of stopping people's freedom to choose, to actually have this political front that the movement since 2018 for democratic, movement by the students and stuff is gathering pace. So they did a quite well election back in I think in November or December time last year, and they took quite a lot of local seat that one. So this is more of a more general the council election, and they were basically saying Hong Kong. The politicians are a bit running scares and using this pandemic as a excuse to, delay the election so they can, safeguard the seats. But I don't buy that. I personally think lives matter more, and especially you have a pandemic that suddenly come back. I mean, Hong Kong in Asia has been quite good examples of how it's controlled the coronavirus pandemic, and it hasn't been have any much serious cases and lately for the last couple of months or so, but then suddenly it got reintroduced back in the system, and then this last 10 days you have basically 100 plus people getting sick. So more than 1,000 people have basically not just showing the fire, but actually got sick quite badly in Hong Kong as well. So for the chief executive of Hong Kong basically just say, I have to stop the election, which is in about 6 weeks time, which is I think it's just really fair. It's a bit raised an eyebrows to actually for Carrie Lam to stop it for 12 months, and then mostly the negative news, BBC, Sky, and Guardians in UK basically all say, it's bad, shouldn't be more than 12 months, maybe 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, or maybe 6 months, but not 12 months. 12 months, that means the Hong Kong government basically running scares of the local democratic student movement, so to speak, and then not want them to have more seats or control of the council. But I think all this is just BS, To me anyway, this information doesn't come from me, but I checked it out, and it's from Hong Kong. Somebody there's a lady who is in the legislative council called Regina Yip, and she actually was on YouTube. It's in Cantonese, and actually mentioned something called in UK. This one I just checked it out. It's called what you call the Coronavirus Act 2020, which is in UK. What happened is UK have said basically introduce a new law to say, okay, all the elections in May, so forth, is going to be delayed for a year due to coronavirus effect. And this one was proposed back in March. I think got passed sometime in April or May time, and then basically on May, there's supposed to be May 7th. There's supposed to be a lot of 118 local council election in England, and then Mayor of London and Greater London Assembly supposed to get elected, and so forth. And the UK government basically said, okay, because of a coronavirus and people cannot really just come out and vote safely, and so they put in this new law, basically say, okay, well, let's delay the election for a year. Well, UK government is also one of those voices concerned about Hong Kong not delaying the election in Hong Kong. So it's all like quite hypocrite to me for the British newspaper and BBC News, and also the British government moaning about Hong Kong delaying the election for a year, so to speak. But it's okay for UK to do that. I mean, BBC actually said out of all countries or whatever, there was like 60 something didn't go ahead, so 40 of them go ahead, and they say Singapore gone ahead and South Korea as well. Why can't Hong Kong be? But they are different kettle of fish. Hong Kong Singapore and South Korea haven't got the local issue like the demonstration, mass gathering, and also you've seen what happened in UK as well as in US. When people go mass gathering, you get a spread of coronavirus and a resurgence of that quite quickly. And being Hong Kong have this local democratic movement of starting from the students, so to speak, still going on, so to speak. People are quite heated, and then they are not going to they probably go very quickly and try to vote and kind of things like that. So social distancing maybe out the window. It's difficult to keep people away from each other. We keep the distance and to get them to vote, and especially older people is very vulnerable for this coronavirus. So it just, to me, it just makes sense, but it does raise an eyebrows to me as well for 12 months. I think maybe 6 months would be good, but 12 months, well, that's the prerogative. They can, and of course, decide to go ahead or not to go ahead. But I think for British and other countries and journalists and news media, please actually say Hong Kong did this just to try to dampen the movement, the Hong Kong democratic movements. Those students been demonstrating and stuff, getting more seats in the council. I think it's a bit silly as well. But that's basically two things actually happened this year. This week, and it basically makes Hong Kong index very difficult to track at the moment. That's what I'm tracking at the moment. So it's quite sudden jittering, or quite volatile. Go up, go down, go up. So trend following is not making much money on that side. But overall, other things coming back in and basically helps, and then make things over. So it's normal. It's quite a normal week for me as well this week, and it's not much happening except these two noteworthy stuff. But yeah, I definitely got hurt with the Apple trade. But well, I take a long term to see how it goes. Anyway, it's enough of my moan for now. And next is my update, or my weekly sample portfolio update. Okay, here's an update. Portfolio, first of all, of course, is Apple. It's a buy across the board. The latest news from Apple basically just moved the share up even more. So short term, medium term, and long term is a buy across the board. Next is Amazon. Also the news. This one basically is still doing well. Amazon is still making lots of money, and short term, medium term, long term is still a buy as well. Next is Australian dollar against US dollar. Similar to Apple and Amazon, is a buy across the board. This one at the moment is having a bit of issue trying to go above 0.72. Basically, the Australian dollar moved up quite a lot since March, and US dollar is weakening. But because Australian dollar have gone up so much already, the recent weakening of US dollar sort of capped the trade to about 0.72 Australian dollar to US dollar, Australian dollar to US dollar to 0.72 level, and just basically stay there at the moment. So we just have to see how it goes. Next is crude oil. First of all, it's a Brent crude first. It's buy short term, medium term is also buy, long term is neutral. For crude oil, WTI, short term is a buy, medium term is neutral, long term is also neutral. Both Brent crude and WTI US crude has been more or less doing a sideways. With Brent crude still moderately moving upwards, but the WTI seems to be more or less going sideways and not going too far. But with the US dollar sort of losing its ground, I think there is a case to call for both anything that is measured in US dollars to basically increase inflation may be coming. But we just have to wait and see. Next is DAX. Short term is a sell. Medium term is neutral, and also long term is neutral. So it's basically a change of guard from last week. So this week is short term is sell, medium and long term is neutral now. Next is Dow Jones. Short term is still buy, medium term is still neutral, long term is still buy. So it's more or less have been pounding slowly downwards for Dow Jones past week or two. It's not doing much. This overhead ceiling, this downward trend line seems to be pushing it down, but in the middle is the share. The trend line is on the top, and the bottom of it is the 50 days 20-day moving average at the bottom, so it's doing support. So this one's also could be curling as well, so just wait and see what happens to Dow Jones. Next is FTSE 100. Short term is a sell, medium term is neutral, long term is also a sell. Next, of course, is gold. For the follower of my podcast, you know that I've been quite bullish on gold for quite a while. And if you only buy gold this year and nothing else, when you probably make about 30, maybe 40% by now. And for this week, basically, gold, I think it's reached about 2,000 at one stage and then came back down again. It's hovering between 1950 to 1980, that kind of area. So for this week anyway, short term is a buy, medium term is a buy, long term is a buy. So no change from last week, but gold seems to be slightly moving up. The short term weakness of the US dollar definitely helps. Excuse me, and we just see what happened to this 2,000 mark, and see if it get broken this week or not. Next is Hang Seng Index. I said before, because of the security law, excuse me, the security law and so forth have sort of made the Hong Kong index going sideways for a little bit for the last couple of weeks. So it's the same thing at the moment. So short term is a sell, medium term is neutral, long term is also a sell. Next is Nasdaq. Short term is a sell, medium and long term is still a buy. So for the past week or two, basically it's when every time try to go 11,000 and it's been shot back down. I think this week it tried to do that again as well, as especially on Friday when the Facebook, Google, Apple and Amazon all come out with the result. It briefly go about like 11,900 area, but it failed to break back about the 11,000 mark and stayed there and came back down again. So it's struggling for Nasdaq, so we just have to wait and see what's come next. Next is Nikkei in Japan. Short term now is a sell, changed this week to sell. Medium term is also changed to neutral, and long term is also changed to sell as well. So this sort of happens basically. I personally believe it go hands in hand with the US dollar against Japanese yen. Japanese yen has been gaining strength, and slowly the Nasdaq is just basically follow through. So this week is finally going reverse the signal, and it's short term is a sell, medium term is neutral, long term is a sell now. So we just see how it goes. Next is silver, same as gold. Buy across the board for medium, long term, and short term. Yeah, so silver is sort of lagging as usual with gold, but is doing well. Like I said before, once it breaks $20 mark, it should go around, quite quickly to 25. But sort of, I think it touches it and comes straight back down again. So we just have to wait and see. It does smells, some parabolic move, but I think there's still some legs to go for this one yet. So we just have to wait and see. I think next year both gold and silver will go even higher. But that's just my internal analysis. But we will see how the market reacts. Next is US dollar against Chinese yuan. It's sell across the board, sell medium, sell long term, sell short term as well. Haven't much changed last 3-4 weeks or so now, and just even with the bounce of US dollar weakness, there was a little bit of movement against the Chinese yuan. It sort of weakens a little bit as well, and then it got stronger again. So we just have to wait and see what happens. Next is British pound against Japanese yen. Short term is a buy, medium term is neutral, long term is a buy. So this sort of changed medium then short term. Medium and long term has changed from neutral last week to buy this week. Next is British pound against US dollar. Short term is a buy, medium term is a buy, and long term is a buy. So overall, for British pound against Japanese yen and against US dollars, all a buy at the moment. So this is, I think, personally feeling is the US dollar weakness basically help to push the British pound go a bit higher, but we just have to wait and see how it goes. Next is Bitcoin. Short term is changed to buy from last week to sell. Medium term is also a buy, and long term is a buy. Like I said last week or so, there's this little coil of the share price is sort of gone up a bit, and then suddenly broke above this triangle bit, this coil. So it's now moving up to like 11,300 mark. So that's good. So long as stay above the 9,600, 9,800 ish, that area, it should continue to be a buy. Next is iShare TLT ETF. No change from last week. Short term, medium, and long term is all buy. So basically, people continue to power into bonds, apparently, and this TLT iShare 20 is actually showing as well. Next is Tesla. Short term is a sell, medium, long term is still a buy. So Tesla is basically not much movement lately. Still, for the past 2 weeks or so, going to be sideways after its recent, move really high, and suddenly just drop back down, and then now just go sideways again. So we just have to wait and see how it goes. So overall, that's the end of this week's portfolio update. I'll speak to you next week. Bye for now.